And I think you have to kind of do a little mic check or something, or you have to check to see whether or not we actually are live.
Oh, hello, check, mic.
Hello.
1 2 1 2. Hey.
I'm not sure. I think we are live though. It seems to be telling me that we're live, so I think we are good. In which case then, hello everyone. Today I am interviewing someone called Anaf Kalam. He is the journalist of whom has been reporting specifically on Uthman ibn Farooq and his alleged stabbing that happened in San Diego in America. As a few of you might know, I had a quick confrontation with Uthman that lasted all of 4 minutes before Uthman decided to do a quick runner. Um, Revelation 22:13 says we are live. That's great. Thank you very much. Um, and I reached out to Anaf to have this chat because I was really interested to get his perspective, to understand the things that he's uncovered, what he now thinks about this story, and just to sort of introduce, I guess, Anaf to the YouTube community, really, because I imagine there are a lot of people who are aware of your articles, are aware of the things that you've published, and we'd love to hear more about your opinion and I guess your background as well. So a few moments ago, me and Anaf were talking about his background. We were talking about whether or not he was a Christian. And I guess, Anaf, if you'd like to sort of repeat back what you said a few minutes ago.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me on your show here. It's a great pleasure. In line with what I was saying here a moment ago, I am a ex-Muslim. I am hesitant to use the term atheist, maybe just because I know so many atheists who've put a bad taste in my mouth from that term. But with regards to Christianity, I would call myself an agnostic that is sympathetic to Christianity. I was kind of saying earlier about how I'm a first-generation immigrant in the United States, and I came from a Muslim family. And if for nothing else, I will say that I am very grateful to live in a place like the United States or like the West, where it is, to some degree or any degree, basically dictated by Judeo-Christian ideology. It's where we get I'd like to say, our moral ideas, our many of our laws, many bits of our Constitution. But in terms of how much I am a believer depends on what day of the week it is, I suppose.
We have a saying which is kind of like, you're not a believer yet. Maybe in a few days, maybe. But yeah, it's quite interesting because your perspective is actually quite a common one, particularly at Speaker's Corner. You'd be surprised because I'm not sure if you're aware of the kind of dynamics at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park in the UK, but we have, I guess you would say, kind of about 20% Christians and 70 to 80% Muslims. It's overwhelmingly one-sided. And
This
so
is
what
in
you have,
Hyde Park?
this is in Hyde Park. Yes, this is in the legendary Speaker's Corner. I've been attending there for about a year now. But you will find people religiosity, they don't have any care for belief whatsoever. They have nothing to do with Islam or Christianity, and yet they will talk to you and they will do everything they can to help you defeat Islam intellectually. And it's a very, very interesting thing because they don't care about Judaism, atheism, Gnosticism, Christianity, nothing like that. They are only cared about one thing, and it's because they see the culture and they see what's happening in the UK and they see Hyde Park as a reflection of that. So it's quite strange. There's a lot of support for anti-Islamic views, which is, surprising, I think, in a lot of ways, because you would think that people would sort of choose to just go their own way and not really focus on it. But people realize that this is kind of the zeitgeist of the age, especially in the UK. There's a lot of heavy Islamization, I guess you would say, in the UK. But yeah, that's great to hear. Obviously, I hope one day you look further into Christ, but I'm sure you're very much.
I'm about halfway through C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, so
Ooh, are you? Oh, nice.
I am quite moved by it. So maybe we'll have a talk afterwards.
Yeah, awesome. I also like C.S. Lewis, as you can imagine, a lot of Christians do. Um, it's very, very popular, especially in the UK, since he was from here as well. So where were you originally from then? You said that you were was an immigrant to America, or was it your parents who were? Or
Yeah, my parents are immigrants from Bangladesh. I was born and raised
okay,
here, but they're both from Bangladesh, which is a basically a Muslim country. They're officially secular, but it's something like 95% Muslim.
right. We have the kind of the same experience here because much of the immigration that comes to the UK is from two countries. It's
Yeah.
from Pakistan or it's from Bangladesh. I mean, there are obviously others as well, but like a large proportion is from those two places. So well, that's interesting. But okay then. So I guess let's start off by talking about how you got involved in this. Like, how did you first be interested in this? Yeah, take us on that journey, I guess.
Yeah, so it began when I was actually researching for a different article that I was writing about Uthman ibn Farooq and an appearance that he was going to be doing at a mosque in Tampa Bay with another radical Islamist imam from Denver. And while I was doing that research, that's when I had come across that video about Uthman getting stabbed. And I watched the video, I saw the photos, and what I saw did not pass the sniff test for me. Uh, the photo looked to me obviously fake for so many reasons. The acting to me was just comically bad. There was that article in the San Diego Union Tribune that was just extremely vague. It wasn't even absolute in knowing that the police department had any records or evidence, or that they'd been able to get into contact with anybody. And so, I saw this, and I have actually written several times in the past about other uh, call them Islamophobic hate crimes, or instances of Islamophobia that happen, and basically all of them turned out to be staged. And one of the things that is characteristic about all of them is that they always will use it to gain the public eye so that they can say that, oh, the Western media will not cover this because they're Islamophobic. The police will, they won't investigate because they're Islamophobic. Groups like Islamist groups, in this case, like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, will always pounce on these stories as soon as they hear about them, never even bothering to check if they even happen before dishing out their accusations of Islamophobia wherever they can. But after I saw all of this, I decided first maybe to do some kind of elementary digging. So I looked on San Diego's police records that are all available in public databases for their city. And the most easiest to access is their hate crime database, and I imagined that would be the easiest database to parse through that information. And of course, there was nothing. In fact, the only other hate crime reported that day was like two women in a fist fight in the other end of town. And so then I thought, okay, maybe it was maybe not reported as a hate crime. So I went to the City of San Diego's records on their website. It's all publicly available. You can do this at home if you'd like right now. And when I put in that query, they required a date and a location for the incident. And since the police, according to that article, had apparently no idea where this happened, I figured I'd watch the video a couple times, and I'm lucky because Uthman is quite sloppy in covering his tracks and these things. So I was able to pretty easily figure out this location, and from there I submit that information to the police department, and once again they turned back with absolutely nothing. doing my due diligence as a journalist, I thought maybe I'm just asking the wrong office, or maybe I misspelled something. So I got in touch with the police lieutenant who Uthman had apparently been in touch with, according to that Tribune article. And again, nothing. He was very brief and to the point in his response. And he said, this gentleman did not file a police report. And that was that. And so I'm like, okay,
Wow.
This is something. And actually, I kind of started at this point, kind of drafting an article about it. But even that one email was still kind of not as solid of a foundation as I would like. And I happened to be scrolling through my Instagram feed that next week, and that's when I saw the clip of Uthman on the Green Lane podcast. And that's where he says that the attacker has been arrested and they got his fingerprints from from the knife that Uthman had managed to wrestle out of his hands with apparent superhuman strength, which that also just obviously that to me was not true. They could have easily just gotten the security camera footage and license plate. There's no way they would bring in a DNA forensic specialist for this. So anyway, I learned of these new developments, and I gave Lieutenant Adam Sharkey, who I had been in contact with at San Diego Police Department, I gave him this new information, and I'm like, hey, this guy now says that somebody was arrested in connection to this crime, which you just told me he didn't report. Like, can you corroborate this or any of this? And Lieutenant Sharkey says, well, basically, for us to pursue anything, really, there has to be a police report or a record of it. And without that, our officers don't even know, what they're looking for. So there could not have conceivably been a arrest regarding to the case. And so I heard that. I released the first article, and then we got Uthman's video,
Right.
which, pretty predictable for Uthman. I figured he was just gonna like wave some papers around and not really tell you anything, and it's exactly what he did. He just turns around and calls everybody names and all kinds of Islamophobes, and he then claimed that Al Jazeera had an article with a police report and an arrest record, which assuredly they do not. They reported on it, but they also did not have any arrest records or police reports or anything. He then says, "Oh, if anybody is a real news journalist and wants to cover this, the San Diego Union Tribune reached out to him, and by any estimation, I'd call them a real newspaper." And they got nothing even before even before I had reached out to Uthman and published my story at FWI. I reached out to Uthman over his personal email, his One Message Foundation email, his YouTube live Q&A sessions, and even what I'm quite sure is his personal phone number. And no answers. Sometimes, I just get ignored, like on that live Q&A. But
just real quick question.
He had nothing. And then
I can imagine very much he had nothing. So yeah, what was I going to say? There was something when you mentioned the video that he made in response, right? He made this this sort of quick video where half of it wasn't actually related to the topic, half of it was something completely different, and the first half of it was just him talking about how he's under attack, people are trying to discredit him, I'm the victim, that kind of mentality. And then he waves this piece of paper around, doesn't show you the piece of paper. It's kind of like, you have to be kind of a little bit, quite a lot of stupid to not realize that to get rid of this whole thing and just show the piece of paper, like of all the things not to do, you would have thought that would be the thing, right?
It would take nothing.
Yeah, when I met him at Speaker's Corner, I said to him, like, you can refute me in 5 seconds. You just need to tell me a contact detail that I
Yeah.
can use to validate what you're saying, and that's it. Like, you know, you don't need to talk to me anymore. That's it. But yeah, he brought up the whole Al Jazeera story. He thought that that was some kind of defense. Now, I hadn't actually looked at that at the time, but I thought this was. I could bet money on the fact that this is just a random article that doesn't tell you anything new, that is literally just repeating the same
Yeah.
narrative that he's already said. So I thought, yeah, I'm not trusting that. But as soon as I saw the video he made in response, where he
And
was waving,
you know, I think he.
I knew it was fake. I knew it was fake at that point. I knew he was lying. So as you were saying,
Yeah. I think he really shot himself in the foot even by releasing that video. I like to think that that was probably 50,000 people who didn't even know about this scandal or about my article, and then he releases this bombastically uneventful video where like 5 minutes of it is him talking and calling us Islamophobes, and then he's talking about like doing dawah or something or another, but that like most of them probably had no idea this was happening, and surely some of them, I mean, unfortunately, many of them are believing everything he says, but I like to think that some of them at least are actually clicking on the article and they can see the email correspondence and the screenshots and all the evidence. But that's just my hope.
Well, I think you're right. I think there are people that are seeing it and they are waking up to this because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but he has been involved in other instances where, I mean, nothing on this kind of scale, nothing about like faking a hate crime, but he has basically claimed what was it, a particular hadith. He uses Islamic literature and he takes a footnote from that Islamic literature and he tries to claim it as an actual
Yeah.
legitimate hadith.
Oh, footnote Farooq.
Ever want a bit of a laugh, then yeah, you can watch that. And he gets caught out, and people tell him, "Look, we know that you've lied, because either we have to think you're very, very dumb, and you didn't understand what you were doing, someone who supposedly is an expert in hadith, or you're just deceiving people. You're just giving this out so that you can get people off your back and worry about it." So he's got a kind of a reputation at this point.
And actually, one thing that actually was not reported on really at all, and this probably will actually interest you. According to, I don't know if you watched Ali Dawa's video about the incident. So basically, in Ali Dawa's video, another Islamist friend of Uthman, he is showing screenshots from a conversation supposedly with Uthman's son, and Uthman's son is telling him that apparently before the video started recording, the attacker was shouting "Jesus is Lord" at Uthman, and so you know what he's trying to do, right? He's trying to project, and he's trying to call. He's saying, "Oh, it's the Christians and Hindus and Jews and atheists who are resorting to violence," and it's total projection.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. There is especially people like Alida because they come to the corner and they engage with me and Bob and other people at the corner who are Christians. There is kind of like a big desire to slander and to sort of make these kind of narratives up. Especially since are you familiar with Hatun? Hatun being stabbed?
Hatun is he
Hatun,
the guy from?
She's like a Turkish lady. She's an ex-Muslim. She comes to Speaker's Corner.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
About last year, she was stabbed at Speaker's Corner in public, in front of a lot of people, and the attacker was wearing a COVID mask as well as like a raincoat, so you couldn't see who he was, but he was on camera, and people uploaded it to their channels to show this happening. Fortunately, she was okay. Hatun was all right. She was bleeding heavily, but she went to hospital and she lived to fight another day. But yeah, you can watch Ali Dawa's video to that, for example.
Yeah.
And he actually has the nerve to say that it was a Christian who did it. He says he basically he makes the title of the video a Christian stabbed Hatun, now what? Or something like that, right?
Uh,
Like paraphrasing. But then when you click on the video, he admits that it wasn't a Christian who did it. He was just saying, what if it was a Christian who did it?
uh, that is
So it's,
so dishonest.
yeah. When I saw that, I was fuming because I just thought, wow, that's so dishonest. So, I mean, when I actually heard about the whole Uthman thing, when I heard he was allegedly stabbed, I thought, okay, well, you know what? I don't know if this is real or fake. I'm not gonna lie. I think the blood looks like more like ketchup than anything else. It doesn't look like real blood. It's somehow gone up. I know immediately that looks very. And of course, you have to believe that he had the time to take the selfie. So he was stabbed. He picked up his phone and went, wait. I'm not gonna tell anyone. Just give me a second. Like holds it up to himself and then takes a picture. You know,
It's
it's
like,
bizarre
just
to me.
comically bad acting and the entire thing. The best thing he could have done in response to learning about this article for himself would probably just be to pretend he never saw it, to never address it, because, well, we now know he's making that documentary about this non-stabbing,
It's going to
and
be the most
I
shortest documentary, or the longest documentary, depending on how he does it. But
I imagine he's going to pull some fight scenes from some Bollywood movies, and but I'm kind of worried. Maybe it's that the problem is that he's starting to believe his own lies, but he keeps trying to double down. He's going to get himself into some legal trouble here. He's going to be forced to falsify police documents. Maybe go back to the police store where he bought the fake blood and get a police costume. He really should just pretend this never happened. And
yeah, I think he's in too deep. I think he's
yeah,
gone so far in that he needs to get out somehow. Um, and I don't know what that's going to look like. I think really he just has to hope that people forget. He waits it out, and then enough people just forget about it
yeah,
and move on. But I don't know how that's going to happen because I do think there are sincere Muslims who follow Uthman who
yeah,
do look up to him, and we've already seen it on the other sort of escapades he's been on when he's told these huge lies and been caught out. We've seen people, especially on Twitter, who have just said, "Look, we can't follow this guy. He's openly a deceiver."
yeah,
So there are people who are starting to wake up, which is good. And hopefully this is another one of those occasions. Hopefully from the work that you've been doing, from the emails that you have and the evidence that you've got. I think I remember. I don't know if it was on your Twitter, but I think you said something like you recorded a phone call with. Was that you or was that someone
yeah.
else?
So there was a period right right after I released that first article, and Uthman's little like henchman, this guy Muhammad Salah. You've probably seen all of his replies on Twitter and YouTube where he is saying, "Oh well, the Sheikh is gonna prove you wrong. The Sheikh is gonna." And he at some point says in a few tweets, which I have screenshots, but he says in a few tweets that well, Uthman actually reported this to the La Mesa Police Department, which is
Yes, he said this to me. I
about
think the whole La Mesa.
yeah, the
Mm,
La Mesa is a city in San Diego County, and it's about 10 miles away from where the incident supposedly happened. And I called them just because, well, I saw these tweets, and very shortly after he had deleted them. But again, in those tweets, he made a definitive statement that could be provably, debunked. So I called the La Mesa Police Department, and they told me a few things. First, I was told that if this incident happened in San Diego and he reported it to La Mesa, which apparently does happen. Sometimes people will like drive away from an incident and then report it to some, small town police department nearby.
yeah,
But if that were the case, and if that were the case for any nearby police department, they would just transfer that case over to SDPD. And then I'm transferred over to the lieutenant in charge of the records. And I kind of told her what I'm investigating, and I sent her the original article I'd written. And so she looks through La Mesa Police Department's records. She looks through the sheriff's records for the county. She looks through all of the nearby San Diego hospitals to perhaps cross-reference a police report with an incident there.
Oh wow.
And she looked through like some of the basic county court records, and she found absolutely nothing.
Wow.
And
that is
and that was
crazy.
before I reached out to the district attorney, who then also said, which I don't think
Yeah.
that reply could have been any more damning, where they said, "We have not received this case from any law enforcement agency."
Yeah, because I mean, he's now sort of dug himself even further because now it isn't just that an incident happened and he was injured. Now there was a criminal who supposedly did the event, who did the attack, was then apprehended, arrested, and then charged. So I mean, and there's no record of this at all. And at that point, it's like, wow, that's a
None.
complete lie.
And my prediction is that in this documentary, he will show us how his alleged attacker has now embraced Islam.
Yeah, I think what
But
he's going to do is he's going to find the same guy that was in the video and go up to him and do this whole thing with him about how he forgives him because of how merciful he is, and you know, it's it's bizarre. But yeah, from everything you've done, I think it's quite evident at this point. I mean, how would you even defend it if you were Uthman? How would you go from here other than just make this documentary and try and get out of it? I don't think there is anything, right? I don't think there is anything you could say at this point.
no, who was it? Was it might have been the people at DCCI Ministries, or it might have been somebody connected to
Just
them. But
to just to quickly mention, DCCI Ministries is Hatun. You know how I was talking about
oh,
Hatun,
okay,
the lady that was
yes,
stabbed? Yeah, it's she is the spearhead of
it's
DCCI Ministries.
Hatun Tash. Is that right?
Hatun Tash, yeah, that's the name.
Okay, yes, I am familiar. I actually was not aware that was an ex-Muslim female. I just saw that name on
Yeah,
DCCI's video. But
right, yeah,
I think it was them. It might have been JAI. Is that?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the two. But they recently did a video on the Uthman stabbing, and they uh, I forgot where I was going with this, but it'll come back to me.
So I think I know what you're referring to. If I remember right, there's a video that there was Jay, and there was I think she calls herself Daughter of Christ. I think it is.
Yes, that's the
Um,
one.
and they went through quite a long live stream where they were just talking about everything that sort of related to the case, and they brought up a lot of your materials. They showed the emails. Um, yeah, and I think that was pretty comprehensive. Like, I think that yeah, I mean, it's amazing that we have that kind of clarity. It's very rare that you have that kind of situation where you can quite clearly show that someone has been fabricating a story, like a narrative. And Anaf, are you still there? Mm, give me a sound if you are there enough. He may have gone. I think he might have been in like a cafe or a public place. So I think maybe he's had to quickly drop off. Oh, is he there? Enough? Can you hear me? Hello? Well, I can hear you a little bit enough, but you're lagging. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hi. You can hear me? Can you hear me? Enough? No? Okay, I'm just going to give him a few minutes to reconnect because I think he's in a public place. I think maybe the Wi-Fi there is not very good. He was having issues with his phone earlier and with his laptop. So I'm guessing those issues have come back to haunt him. Because I can hear you just a little bit. You're kind of like, you're there, but you're just lagging a lot. Like your internet is really, really bad. And hello? I can see you in slow motion.
Hello?
Hello? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Is my audio okay, guys? Just real quick. Am I really quiet? Am I over loud? Just give me a quick audio check so I know if I need to change any settings. He's going past a black hole there. Okay, so in the meantime, while Anaf is fixing his audio, I'm going to quickly go through some of these comments and just show some comments that you guys have made. So Ibn footnote stages on attack. Yep. I like this one, the Jussi Smollett of Islam. I think that one works quite well. Anaf, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you, which is
Okay.
like a much bigger improvement than before. So
Great. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not entirely sure what happened. I think it was with my internet here.
no worries. Are you in a public, like, are you on public Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Right. Okay. That might explain it a little bit. But yeah, no worries. So do you have any like going back to what we were talking about? Do you have any plans for what you're going to investigate next, or is there anything that you think could be investigated, or do you think it's just done and shut at this point? You know, you've looked at La Mesa Police Department, San Diego Police Department, the District Attorney, and I guess you mentioned it also included things like the hospitals, right, nearby.
Yes. Well, that was all. That's we've basically covered all our bases here, but I'm just curious what he's going to say next, because he also doesn't seem to realize that he just keeps giving us more and more content to write about the more he digs himself deeper. That's why I brought up that that DCCI video. They had mentioned in that video, kind of what you're saying here. What is Uthman going to do next? How much further is he going to dig himself? And they basically said that they think, well, there's nothing left to do unless he says, oh, I used a different name. This is not my real name. And I'm starting to think that he might start to watch these videos just to get ideas that he had not thought of himself yet. And so in the next video, if he says, oh, Uthman ibn Farooq is not my real name, and I reported it under, X, Y, and Z, I will not be surprised in the slightest.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised either. But remember, though, because something he said to me was that he can't give me the information because if he did, he will be doxing himself and his real name. So either he was lying about that, because that obviously implies that his real name was the name that he used, which is different from Uthman. So what I mean by that is I don't know. I find it difficult to believe that. I think that he's just digging more and more holes for himself, really. But who
I
knows at
don't
this point?
I don't know where he can go truly.
Yeah, definitely so. But I mean, that time last Sunday was the first time he actually came to Speaker's Corner. So we had never seen him before, and I was amazed to have caught him. He turned up, and he had basically sort of went to a corner of Speaker's Corner, and then he kind of had his own little entourage around him, and he made it very clear that they were kind of vetting who they wanted to come and speak with him. So he really did not want to engage in debate at the corner. Instead, he kind of wanted to give his lectures, give his speeches for the Muslims, those who would come there to see him. And there was a Christian that came up to him to debate him, and he immediately the crowd tried to get the Christian away because they didn't want Uthman talking to anyone else. And then yeah, finally he managed to debate him, and that did not go well for him. So he did a runner, and that's when I caught up with him and I asked him the questions. But yeah, I guess apologies for not remembering your name in the heat of the moment.
Oh yeah, that seems to be the only thing he had on you is that you can't remember the journalist's name.
Yeah, yeah, which is bizarre, really. I mean, I was about to go pull up some of your articles to actually show this, to actually show like who you are, like this person is saying this. But I think if I did that, I don't think he would have cared. I think he would have labeled you. Actually, I mean, I'm
Well,
guessing at this point the backlash towards you and whether you, I mean, whether that's happening now or whether that's something that's going to keep happening in future, is I guess a slander on your name. I'm guessing, right? From their perspective, they're
well,
just gonna.
the thing about the term Islamophobia is that it's a very hard accusation to actually prove because they're very unclear about what it actually means, and typically they use it interchangeably for does not agree with what I think about Islam
Yeah.
or person who has criticism of Islam. And I mean, they're you probably know as well as anybody how they hijack these things about like race and gender, and then they try and squeeze Islam in there to have the same effect.
Yep. Very, very much so. Um, and I also guess, given that you're an ex-Muslim, I'm guessing it's also sort of doubly like what you call it? It's more upsetting to them because an ex-Muslim is
Yeah,
making these kind of
it's
critiques.
there's that, and then there's just the whole aspect of my family, many of my friends are all Muslims, and it's such a damn shame to see otherwise very reasonable, intelligent people just fall for this so easily because they want to believe in a narrative that, frankly, I don't think is there. Uh, but they're willing to, like everything we've seen on Twitter and social media about this, they're willing to totally ignore the evidence, totally ignore uh, just everything right in front of their eyes, just so they can hold on to this idea that Muslims are persecuted and Christians are evil and they're out to get us and stab us.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the same here. In the UK, it's very much that kind of narrative, although I think it's further along. So in America, like you'll have to forgive me because my knowledge of America is fairly limited. But my understanding is that you have a state which is it Melbourne? Is Melbourne a state or a city? I'm not quite sure. And you have
Um,
Dearborn, or is Dearborn the state?
Dearborn, yeah, that's right. It's a city in the state of Michigan, but yes.
Ah, right, right. Okay. So my understanding is that the largest Muslim population in America is in that particular city, basically, so or near around that area. Um,
Yes.
so,
Um, a lot of
so
interesting things coming out of Dearborn. I'm not sure if you saw the recent incident where there was a public school board meeting, and a number of Christians and Muslims had basically, joined forces and put aside their difference, and they were talking about some of this like LGBT
ah,
trans stuff that had been
yes,
appearing in public school libraries.
yes, I did read about this. Yeah, we actually have something very similar in the UK. As again, the same sort of thing. We had Muslims who were protesting against the introduction of LGBTQIA plus whatever it might be material to. I think it was either second. I think it might have been primary school or secondary school. Um, and to be honest with you, it's something that I think they, being a Christian myself, I do agree with the understanding that LGBT is not what I would describe as a morally good thing in terms of its behavior.
Sure.
But the Muslims are very passionate about that, and they actually go out and they protest, and they can do it in sufficient numbers, and they can actually sort of uh, pack a punch, if you see what I mean. Whereas I'm not
Yeah.
maybe that's the same in America with the Christians there, but the Christians in the UK it's very different. It's much more watered down. We're sort of more diverse. We don't congregate as much as we used to.
Yeah. I think in the US, this might be true in the UK and parts of Europe. Many Muslim groups like this might actually have the upper hand here because you can't just say, oh, these are just your run of the mill white Christian bigot zealots or whatever. They have the shield, and it's one of the things that I'm sure across the West nobody really wants to come to terms with, which is what happens when liberal ideas open the way for the most illiberal people among us and give them cover.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that. There's there's a great sort of difficulty really because I mean I understand that you're not from the Christian perspective, but if you're in the UK and you're a Christian or I guess even an atheist actually really there isn't any kind of equivalent. So when someone does something and they accuse someone of Islamophobia,
Mm.
there is no equivalent term. So in effect, you're kind of stuck with this label, and there's no equivalent term if you see what I mean. So you're
Yes.
always constantly on the backslide. It's a very morally weighed argument from the very beginning, and it's very difficult to get around. And I think it's hard to combat. I think really it's things like these that actually help us probably the most because we get to take these people who are leaders of their community who are very well respected, and we get to say, look, you've done some really horrible things. Um,
And
you're
you
not a
don't
particularly
even
good person. Yeah.
and you don't even have to say a word of your own. You have to just let their actions and their records speak for themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like you just keep encouraging them to speak because you know when they speak, it's just going to be condemnation of their own actions, and yeah, it's kind of amazing how it all plays out. But
It.
sorry, you were going to say?
Oh no, go on.
So we're coming up to 48 minutes now. So I guess people can contact you on your Twitter. I'm guessing your
Yes.
Twitter handle, which I've put in the description. I don't know. Is there any other way for people to reach you if people want to get hold of you to email you or something?
Um. Typically, Twitter is probably the best way. It's just my first and last name, Anaf Kalam. I respond to my emails. Same thing. My public email is just my first and last name, anafkalam@gmail.com. I usually sit in front of my computer and my phone all day, so I am quite responsive if anybody would like to reach me.
Nice, awesome stuff. I see. I would like to say we could take questions, but I'm not actually sure if I'm going to look for the comments and see if there's anything there that looks like a good
Oh
question.
no, my camera went down and everybody has decided I.
Oh no, it's all good. I like this one. Can you see the screen at the moment?
I'm I'm looking for the right screen on my phone still.
Well, someone posted, Uthman will never be a truth man. I think that's pretty good.
Oh, that's good. That's right up there with Ibn Fibbin.
Yes, Ibn Fibbin. You heard a Ibn Fibbin footnote?
Yeah.
You heard that one? Yeah, that's related to the
uh,
footnotes in our
my
People.
favorite is the ketchup shake.
Yes. Oh, here we go. We got one from Shamunian. Hi, Sam. Good to have you here. Chris's speakers changed the name Uthman to Utham. Oh, I see. Right. Oh, yeah. I should. I'll have to change that. But yeah, what else have we got? Dearborn. Yeah, just going through comments, but I think we're good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
well,
It's
yeah,
been great
you
to
as
finally.
well. I
Yeah,
know it's getting late there. It's nearing like 10 o'clock over there.
yes, it is coming up to 10. But
Well,
it's been a great honor having you on, and this has been my first live stream. So thank you for being a part of that.
oh yeah, of
And,
course. Well, it's been my pleasure. Happy to come on anytime. Should Uthman release that documentary and then we have new stuff.
it will be great comedy. Great comedy. We'll get a great laugh out of it, I think. All right then. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.